wanna take you for a ride. I 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 wanna take you for a ride.
Hey there guys, Mikey here, and welcome back to March Marvel Madness as presented by the Comic Junkies Corner. So why do studios have to keep messing things up? Man, there is nothing a comic book movie fan hates more than hearing those two frickin' words. Studio intervention. I swear, it's like the moment we hear those words about a movie, we're just like,
fuck this shit, I'm out.
Now, while DC is way more famous for having their movies messed up by Warner Brothers, it's Marvel that actually suffered the most from this. Even the MCU has a couple of missteps in that regard. For whatever reason, studios can't seem to let their directors and writers do their jobs. And there are very few films where that is more apparent than the 2015 film Fant4stic 4, or more commonly known as Fant4stic. What a disaster. I have rarely seen a movie when the audience reactions were a literal R. Kelly meme.
Yo, killing me with this.
But not to worry, we're here to soothe your ails by making fun of it. Let's talk about some Fant4stic. The movie opens up showing us a young Reed Richards doing his school thing as he is in class being taught by Homer Simpson. So Homer Simpson has a teaching license and is teaching in our education system. Oh, fuck. It's here where we are shown that Reed Richards is pretty brilliant, having discovered a way to transport matter at his age. You know what? Screw Tony Stark. This kid discovered a way to transport matter with Homer Simpson as his teacher. Give him all the medals. Next, we are introduced to a young Ben Grimm and his family.
Hey, clobber in town. Come here, what'd you think?
That was dark. Granted, it's kind of hard to take someone seriously who uses the word clobber, but it's actually kind of rough that the phrase coined by the Thing is used as an abusive statement. Not to bring back an old meme, but
What?
I mean, this is his catchphrase. If you don't want to use it, then fine, don't use it. But to change the meaning behind it altogether to a phrase uttered by a physically abusive older brother is just kind of disrespectful to fans, don't you think? I know it's a weird thing to harp on, but it's kind of a weird choice to make. Clark Kent wasn't tossed out of a window as a kid with bullies yelling up, up, and away. Bruce Wayne wasn't thrown into a cavern full of bats with bullies yelling to the Batcave. Both of these superheroes have had more serious takes on their content, and they didn't demonize the catchphrases, they just didn't use them. Because now when Ben becomes the Thing and uses the phrase in a more fun manner, it's gonna be kind of weird and awkward because we know it came from a place of pain. Anyway, Reed and Ben meet, and Ben agrees to help him build a transporter. Now this should be interesting. I mean, these two kids are loners in their own regard, so it should be fun to see what kind of relationship they develop. So, skipping ahead 7 years, and we get... Wait, who the hell are these guys? They be what?
Reed and Ben.
They be what?
Reed and Ben.
That's Ben and Reed?
Yeah.
No, they're not! They're seniors? They're seniors. In what, grad school? Yeah, okay, I'll believe that when you convince me that this guy is 16.
It is.
He looks older than the teacher! So Reed and Ben finally show off their transporter as a functional unit to the amazement of the faculty and the staff.
You're disqualified.
Or not. Apparently it takes a lot more to impress Homer.
It only transports matter.
But luckily for our two protagonists, Franklin Storm, the director of the Baxter Foundation, played by the late Reggie Cathy, just happens to be there, sees their work, and immediately recruits Reed to help find a solution to interdimensional travel. So the director of a government-sponsored research institute was at a high school science fair. Is this a special high school for gifted children? No, it's not a special high school for that. Run the meme!
Why?
There is no reason for this guy to be here. You expect me to believe that this particular guy would be in this particular town, at this particular high school, at this particular science fair, at this particular point in time.
Yes.
Moving on, it's at this point we get some alone time with Reed and Sue Storm. Yep, the power couple of Marvel in more ways than one have officially met. So what hot topic are these two brains going to discuss?
So you like music? Is that kind of like your thing?
Is it weird that I like that? Maybe I'm imprinting on Reed a bit here, but I feel like this is the struggle of all nerdy guys who try to speak to a girl they might like. Our minds race at like 100 miles per hour trying to think of the cleverest thing to say, only to wind up saying the dumbest thing. I can't say much for the interaction here because there really isn't one. Sue obviously doesn't want to be bothered with Reed, but we've seen these kind of romances start before, where the girl or guy doesn't want to give the other the time of day. It's usually some deep-rooted reason as to why this person's guard is up, so even though she walks away in this scene, it'll be interesting to learn about her as the movie goes on. What? Why are you looking at me like that? However, we have another character to introduce, Victor Von Doom himself. Franklin goes to recruit him for the project as well, but instead, Victor would rather reminisce over a story that's far more interesting than the one in this movie. Once Franklin realizes he can't convince Victor to help, he starts to leave until...
Sue gonna be there? Yes, Victor, she'll be there.
Did you just pimp your daughter out? You've been hanging around in Harlem too much, Reggie. But we have one last character to introduce, Johnny, Franklin's son. Johnny is out street racing for thrills, but he wrecks the car and gets injured, so Franklin picks him up and forces Johnny to work for him in order to get his car back. Now this scene is actually one of the more made fun of scenes in the film. It's not really shown that Johnny has any other skills other than being a street racer. We do get the line from Patrick later on that Johnny can build anything, but realistically he could have gotten anyone to fill that spot. And that's true, but there is some legitimacy here. There's a back and forth between them that again describes something more interesting than what's going on in this movie. Are you noticing a trend here? But the gist of it is that Johnny is feeling abandoned by his father and is acting out. Franklin realizes this and puts him on the project that he is directly supervising. And it makes sense, as Franklin will be able to legitimately spend more time with his son. It may be in a working environment, but it would also serve to put his skills to more constructive uses instead of being out on the streets getting into trouble. It's a legit fatherly move and a good character moment that the movie snuck in. It's easy to miss because the movie hasn't had any up to this point. But of course, this moment isn't without its flaws. Franklin does much to say that Johnny is an intelligent man, and he did build a car, but maybe obliviously blowing his engine wasn't the best way to showcase Johnny's intelligence. Now, anyone who's raced a car before knows that you do not redline the vehicle to that degree for that long. Heck, if you play racing video games, you know not to do that. He could have been wrecked any other way, you know, maybe he blew a tire, maybe he hit a slick spot on the road, or maybe the asshole behind him just dumped him.
The bumper to the back of the 24!
My point is, if you're going to talk about someone's intelligence, maybe don't have them do something that's so obliviously dumb, just for the sake of obvious foreshadowing. And now, 30 minutes into the movie, we finally have the Fantastic Four together. We can finally see how these guys connect as they work on the project and develop their relationship, or they can just montage through it. Dude! We are nearly 40 minutes into this movie, and we barely know anything about the main characters outside of their character traits. The movie basically refuses to have them build any chemistry, and outside of a 2-second scene where they're eating Chinese food, they barely look at one another. I know more about Franklin Storm, and he's a supporting character who talks in motivational speeches. Look, maybe my comic nerd is going to show here, but this is supposed to be Marvel's first family, right? The team of teams. Why is this movie looking better at this point? Oh, but wait, we're finally going to get a moment with Reed and Sue. It seems she's opened up to him over the past few months, and I have to assume it's months because Johnny's arm is fully healed. But we are finally going to get some chemistry building.
You don't have an accent.
I don't.
Well, enough of that. How's our doohickey doing?
We're finished.
What?
What? Yeah, we finished it. Do you want to see?
When were you going to tell anyone you were done? Why isn't there a crowd of people marveling over your work? And why does Victor not know you're finished? Wasn't he working on the project with you? Wouldn't he know the progress and how close you all were? That's like beating someone in a fight and not knowing you won.
No, hey, what happened to the fight we were just in?
Everyone's dead.
Oh.
Anyway, they finally decide to tell everyone, but the government steps in and decides to get NASA involved to prep for manned transport. The team is obviously upset by this, as they were told in an earlier scene that they would be the ones to reap the benefits of their work. So yeah, it does make sense for NASA to be at least a little bit involved. But something I want to note here is the government's increasing involvement since the beginning of the film. Starting with the board meetings putting the pressure on Franklin, to Victor making comments about the government's hostility, to now where we get a potential full government takeover of the project. My point is there's a lot of setup with the government here, so keep that in mind. So the team minus Sue get drunk and decide to go anyway. Reed invites Ben along, because reasons. And they all travel to the other dimension. Things of course go awry and Sue has to help them get back to Earth, but the system overloads and blows up, creating some interesting developments. Okay, so yeah, this is obviously the part where the Fantastic Four get their powers, and it's arguably the best, yet the most horrific scene in the movie. I'm not kidding, it's pretty horrifying. The effects aren't great, admittedly, but you can see the fear on their faces. Reggie Cathy looks like he can't decide if he wants to cry, throw up, run away, or hug his children, and it plays pretty well. They succeed in making the powers look painful and gruesome, and it showcases just how dangerous they are. And the movie was admittedly boring up to this particular point, but man, what a payoff. I mean, it's gonna be a heck of a challenge for them to adapt, and we get to witness it. Oh, come on! Why? Why are you so afraid of character development? Why are you so afraid of growth? Why are you so afraid of chemistry? Why are you rushing through everything? What could be so important that you need to sacrifice all of these things that make us invested in a movie? It's not action, because we have to watch that on a TV screen within the movie. So what is it? Tell me, movie, because I would love to know. Who the hell is that?
Victor?
No, it isn't. No. This movie is literally 10 minutes away from being over. You cannot be trying to squeeze in Dr. Doom now of all time. So Dr. Doom wants to destroy the world, and that means the Fantastic Four have to stop him. They try punching him, it doesn't work, so they regroup and defeat him by punching him. We're just going to ignore the fact that he could explode people's heads by being in their mere presence, or shrivel them up like a raisin by thinking it. We're all saved by a good old-fashioned punch in the face.
It's fantastic.
No! What a nightmare. I am in a literal strange sense of pain and awe, which I guess is no different from anyone else who's watched this film. This film has all the signs of a director/writer who had no idea what he was doing. And that's because he didn't, through no fault of his own, because the studio decided to change a good chunk of the script he wrote during filming.
So now we're in rewrites, right? Where you going? Let's rewrite it. Now it's time to flip the script.
Now, let me make one thing clear. I am completely aware that the studio owns the film. At the end of the day, it's their product and they have the final say. Not us, not the director, not the original writers, the studios. However, once they're in the beginning stages, laying down all the groundwork, hiring all the experts, they need to be able to agree on a plan. This is why we see a lot of directors leave projects over creative differences. It's nothing really personal, it's just the ideas don't align. But once the plan is laid out, the experts need to be allowed to do their job. Now, there are going to be some changes that need to take place for whatever reason, but they need to be minor changes. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie had to remove the Twin Towers because audiences were still going to be sensitive to the 9/11 attacks. Channing Tatum was added in more scenes in G.I. Joe Retaliation to show more of the relationship with Dwayne Johnson's character. It didn't help the movie, but still. These are minor changes, but when you change the structure of the film while the film is being built on it already, it's always going to collapse. They rewrote the entire ending of the film and did extensive reshoots, as you can tell by the bad wig Kate Mara is wearing. The climax of the movie was changed, thus a lot of things that were likely already shot, such as scenes that would have developed these characters better, probably had to be thrown out on the editing floor, or they weren't even shot to begin with because they would no longer make sense and would only serve to confuse us more than the movie already did. Remember what I said about the government setup? I'm willing to bet that a faction of the government was supposed to be the main villain of the movie. Everything was pointing in that direction. The constant push on the project, them using Ben and Johnny as weapons. It's possible that Victor was also supposed to be involved, and something just pushed him off the deep end, perhaps making him the bigger threat later on, and him not just appearing at the very end of the film. Sadly, as many people, including the director, have said, we'll never see it because the studio decided that this wasn't the movie that they wanted anymore. It's like if you were making fried chicken and you decided that partway through you wanted to add some spiciness to the mix. That's not so bad because the end result is still the same. But if you decided halfway through that you wanted to make waffles instead and only replace the frying pan with the waffle iron, then you're gonna have some bigger problems. And you'll most likely be made fun of in a Struggle Meals video.
I'm really just mad you just wasted a good ass waffle and you got ketchup at the top like that's supposed to make it taste better.
So that was Fant4stic. That was, I don't know what that was. Leave your thoughts as always in the comment section down below and stay tuned because there's going to be more. Oh golly, I'm going to need therapy after this.
I wanna take you for a ride.